Every once in a while, you sit down with someone who almost never gives interviews. Adam Diaz is one of those people. He doesn't chase the cameras, he doesn't collect interviews, and he's not particularly interested in revisiting parts of his life the public already thinks it understands, especially since it's been on Netflix and across thousands of newspapers. Which is why this conversation really matters to us. Not because it's sensational, and not because anyone is trying to rewrite history. Let me be clear about that. Understanding someone's story is not the same thing as endorsing it. Observation is not agreement. But if we're serious about studying human behavior, helping us all connect to one another, well, looking at the kind of person that shows up when there is power, pressure, and loyalty and consequence, it's better not to pretend those stories don't exist. And sometimes the people who have lived the most complicated chapters are the ones least interested in performing them. And when someone like that is willing to sit down and talk honestly about what it costs to live inside a story the world already decided for you, it's worth listening, but not for spectacle, for understanding. What if your story could ignite a movement? At New Solutions Network, we merge truth, resilience, and reinvention, fueling shows that cut past the noise and light up what really matters: human potential. Police, athletes, survivors, incarcerated folks, visionaries, we bring raw, real voices the world needs to hear. Want to share your story? Want to sponsor change? Now is the time. New Solutions Network, unlocking the future, one voice at a time. Welcome, welcome, welcome to another Natanya Experience. Today, I have a very, very famous or infamous, depending on your circle's guest, the one, the only Adam Diaz, coming to us live from the Dominican Republic. Welcome, Adam.
Hi, thank you so much. My pleasure. Yes, I'm in my house in Dominican Republic, and just chilling here, relaxing, having a wine, cigar, and just this is so nice.
Well, I thank you for making time. For those people listening who may or may not know, Adam and I were introduced through a mutual acquaintance in our intergalactic collection of beautiful weirdos, which we call the New Solutions Network Media Collection, which are all kinds of different people, right? Moving through life. And so it was Mike Dowd who was your I'm gonna say it, and it's sort of a joke, your co-star in Netflix's The 7-5 documentary. And I say co-star, co-conspirator, collaborator, whatever we wanna call it, because you had business dealings in New York in the '80s, and we'll talk about that a little bit. Um, but mostly we're here to talk about what you've been doing now, lately, and how you've returned to your roots, because a lot of what our the whole point of this show and the shows that we produce are to show the human experience and all different ways that looks like. And whether you are a formerly incarcerated individual, you're a fintech CEO, a soldier, a beekeeper, a housewife, whoever you are, you've probably had some struggle in your life. Maybe you've had a run in with the law. Maybe you did some things that you would have been on the other side of the law if you had been found out. Maybe you just had a life that didn't feel like yours. Whatever that may be, you decided to make some changes and you're living life differently today. And so we want to know about that and what that was like. And that's what this interview is all about. It's not to pass judgment on who we are and what we've done, because if there is things that have to do with the courts, we leave that to the courts. We're really just trying to have human beings be able to tell their story in an unfiltered way. So thank you, Adam, for being willing to, whatever you want to call it, open a vein, open the kimono, open the empanada, and share what is inside the meat, the carne inside. So let's start with the juicy bits, right? The juicy bits that everyone wants to know about is how, when you came, talk about maybe coming to the States and what it was like and how you started getting involved in that world where you intersected with Mike Dowd.
When I left the country permanently to stay in the States, uh, it was it was like it was like when winter time, and it was the sky was gray. I mean, comparing this country to the states, especially New York City, which is the northeast, um, it's like it's winter time and the sky's dark, it's gray, It's late afternoon, and I just left the country that the blue, the sky's blue and there's a lot of sun, and it was like a shock. It was shock to me. It was, I mean, shock. Like, wow, where am I? Where am I? And I'm a kid. I'm just a kid, and I remember seeing the bridge. Uh, we came. I think we came through the more to through the north part to JFK. But before we get to JFK, you could see the whole city, and I seen all these bridges. And I mean, and the country that I'm living now, uh, Dominican Republic is, bridges are small. Everything is small. It's a small country. It's a small island. New York City is a humongous. It's a metropolis. It's, to me, it's shocking. Like, wow, this is amazing. And
Was that the first time that you had left the Dominican Republic?
yes, yes,
And how old were you? I'm sorry to
I
interrupt.
was like 8 years old. 8 years old.
Oh, so
But
so quite
I became permanently resident when I was 15, like 7 years later,
mhm.
because my father kept bringing me back and forth, back and forth. My father didn't want us to stay in the states. He wanted to raise us in this country. But my mother, on the other hand, she wouldn't want that. So she wanted what you might call have a better life, but it all depends on from what point of view you've seen it. My father seen it in a totally different point of view than my mom. So
In
yeah.
terms of her, it was more like, how do you I think I know what you mean, but I want you to spell it out a little bit for us. Like, do you mean like she was thinking about opportunity like education and culture or things like that, and your father was maybe concerned because we're talking about, maybe, I don't know,
Well,
temptation.
my father is a teacher. He's a teacher. He's a college teacher. He's well prepared, well educated man. My mother is from the country, from the countryside. She's like a hillbilly, my mother likes the money. She likes you know, to make a better life for herself and and her kids. But when it comes to education, my father really thought that we would have gotten a better education in Dominican Republic. Uh, you know, uh, and he was worrying also about the drugs and how the city might affect us. And but my mother, she didn't worry about that. She was just worrying about us doing better because my mother wasn't really she didn't have a job in this country. She was just a housewife, but she's a businesswoman. She likes to make money. My father was living out of a salary, a good salary. you know he had his vehicle when not everyone could afford it. He already had one, and he comes from a good family, well educated family. you know um, my mom comes from a family that they grew up in farms, growing out tobacco, coca, green bananas, and stuff like that.
Yeah. So they kinda came from different worlds, but you're all coming to the States. What about siblings?
Well, my mother's parents, they were already in New York, and her brothers and sisters. My mother was the only one left in this country because she was married to my father. My father didn't have any plans going over there to New York or to the States, and so she would, her whole family was over there in New York City. So she, I mean, they often come and go. They often visit the country, but I guess she misses her family. She was very attached to her father, especially. My family, by the way, my family looked just like Don Corleone in the that movie, The Godfather. He dresses the same way because that was the style back in those days in the 50s and 40s and 60s in New York. So my grandfather used to dress like that, with the tie, with the suit, with the hat, nice, really nice. So those are the memories I have from my grandparents. So
And then there must have been, like, cousins and that kinda stuff because your mom's family was there, so there was, like, a community, right?
yes.
Yeah. So, because some people come and they have no one. So, let's go forward in time a little bit. Now you're in your what, early 20s and things start getting a little spicy?
Well, no, I was when I started seeing the street, getting into the streets. I was like 17 years old.
Oh, okay. Okay, I didn't know how long young,
Well,
yeah.
I was already into the drug war, the world of drugs, and I met very important people in that world, and well, as a matter of fact, they made a movie. It's called American Gangster, and that guy, the real guy, I met the real guy back in the 70s because he used to make some business with my brother, my so I met the guy in
S
real life, Frank Lucas. So
Can I ask you some, like, questions that I know you've been asked before, but I just wanna have continuity in the story, and I I've talked to you before, but I just wanna, again, for the sake of the interview, what was it? So you're a teenager. What was it going on? When guys say, like, "in the streets," what was it about the drug world that appealed to you, that took you from having a professor father, an educator father who's like, "Let's do education, let's do school," having some family, having some scaffolding. What was appealing? And what kind of drugs are we talking about, and what was the role? Like, what was it? Like, break it down a little bit.
it was okay. You have to remember when I came to the states, to New York City, I came right into the heart of the drug business, which is 163rd Washington Heights, 163rd Street between Broadway and St. Nicholas. I even remember the building and the apartment number. It was 539 West 163rd Street, apartment 5A. So we go there, and then in that street in particular, there was a lot of drug spots. Now, drug spots back in those days, they were not like nowadays, or not like when I started selling drugs. It was more secure, more confident. Like you won't just sell drugs in the street. They have this apartment. You go into the apartment, they search you, then you ask what you want. They had the triple beam scale. You put the drug there. You whether it's a half a gram, an ounce, half an ounce, or whatever. Big eight.
I know, like, going up to the car, it was like a process you have to be
Yes,
about. Do you have to get routed by somebody, or could you be just a somebody who's saying
they
asking
prevent
around?
him. They prevent him from getting robbed. That's all it was. Plus, they won't allow guys to sell drugs on the open in the street because of the kids. Back then, they worry more about that than even the cops. So it was a totally different way of doing business. Now, when I became an adult, that I was already in my 20s, it was totally different. Like everyone was selling drugs right in the open, like Canal Street, Chinatown. You know, it's New York. They have spots. They have heroin spot, cocaine spots, and you have lines, like line, basically a whole block, a whole line. Like it's like when you're gonna go to welfare, you're gonna go and it was
Like
like that.
like a concert, like a tickets, right? Like, wait
Exactly. Like
online
when
for
you
your
when you go
ticket.
to Broadway show and you have to do the line. No, the same thing with the drugs. You have to do a line, and then in order to get your drugs, because it's so much people on drugs, so many addicts. Like I remember Edward Koch, the mayor of New York back in those days, when he declared war on drugs. I remember because I seen it with my own eyes on Delancey Avenue, on Houston Avenue. I remember he sent the cops there. He sent big buses full of cops, police officers. They went and raided all these heroin spots, and they arrested hundreds of people at one time, hundreds and hundreds of them. And most of them were addicts. They were not even the spot owners,
Selling.
so it was crazy. It was amazing. I remember all of that, and that's how he cleaned the park in the West Village. He cleaned the park. I mean, he was criticized for that, but he was doing the right thing. I mean, that's the way I see it.
So, how do you get involved in being part of that machine? How do you get vouched for? How do they trust you? Are you because you said your like, how does that, how does it work?
Well, when I was a kid, 15, 16, there was this guy named, they call him the devil, Mario el Diablo, the devil Mario. He got killed by the cops. He got killed. He got shot in the back by the cops because they couldn't take him anymore. This guy was a pain in the ass to all cops, to everybody. He was not even selling drugs, but he was also robbing people. He was hold up people. He was doing crazy stuff. So they had to kill him. And he was a good friend of mine. He was much like 20-year older than me, but he used to send me to do stuff, and I was, make my moves. And, so when he got killed, that really hurt me. That was like very sentimental to me, and that was in 163rd Street in Manhattan. So my father decided to move from that block because of all the stuff that I was getting involved in. We moved to the Bronx, but then we moved to another worst area, which is South Bronx. Right in front of Roberto Clemente Park. You know, by the riverside, by the river towers. And we had my father bought a house there, three-story house. I learned how to make pizza there. This Italian guy taught me how to make pizza. So we had a pizza shop. My father had the pizza shop on the bottom, and then we moved to the second and third floor. And that's another part of my life where when I was going to Job Corps Center to become an electrician, because I wasn't really a dealer. I was just you know uh, in and out,
Like Aaron?
in and out, helping drug dealers sometimes, but I wasn't really my thing. I really wanted I did a trade school to become an electrician. Then I started working for this Italian company in upstate New York, Terrytown, neighboring Thomas Electric, and I used to work for them, and I was doing fine. But then I got involved with a girl at a very young age, and I needed more money to support her. She was young too, and she was going to school. I was going to school, but then I had to leave school. I dropped out, and then I started going right deep into to become an electrician, and I was doing fine. But I don't know. Somehow I didn't agree with certain things they used to do. Like I was well prepared to do a lot of very fine work because I was working electricity way before that in New York City. Uh, and I was very prepared, but then they weren't paying me what I deserve, and I felt that I was being used because there was people that were older.
And yet it was very, very restricted, right? So there's really nowhere you can go. It's not, with at least with the other world, it felt like if you hustle more, you make more
Exactly.
versus if you more electrical work, they were like, "Okay, here's another 50 cents an hour or something," but it wasn't enough to give you the life that you wanted to also provide for someone
Yeah,
else.
and I was
Is that
and I was single, so when you're single, you know how much taxes you pay. So out of your paycheck, out of a $500 check, you probably get 325. That's it. The rest they take it, and it's not enough money. It's just not enough. Simple as that.
Yeah. So when you looked around, you saw there's this other opportunities. For the most part, it hadn't been very dangerous that at that point yet. Did you have because you told me some stories about, on the motorcycle and the gun in the waistband and driving across the bridge. Were you at that point yet, or did that come later once you started moving,
No,
let's
no,
say
no.
we
That
were
came when I was already a big boss. I mean, I shot a guy.
okay.
I shot a guy when I was a teenager. I was working it's called the Lower East Side. On the Lower East Side, on 11th Street, I had a problem with a guy. We fist fight first because the guy was trying to sell drugs right in the corner, and that was our spot. I was working for my cousin Louis. He's the one that really initiated me in the drugs business. He used to be an electrician himself. He taught me a lot of stuff.
And is Lewis's father the one that sat you down and
No,
said,
that's Louis' brother.
"Oh, okay.
Louis' brother.
Oh, okay. So,
So
yeah, we'll come back to that.
so
I think
Louis
that's interesting."
Louis put me to work with him because he trusted me because we used to work electricity. I used to be his helper, and I was doing fine work for him. So, I stopped working for him, and I went to Terrytown, and then a few years later, I come back when I was already, a man, and he tells me, I know I was like 19, 20, And that's when he approached me and he says, Adam, why don't you come and work for me? As a matter of fact, his brother was very upset at him for doing that. And he says, why don't you come and work for me? You don't make, you need money. You need to dress well. You need to do. He put all this thing in my head, and I was like, okay, no problem. And so I started working for him. And he taught me a lot of stuff, a lot of street things, a lot of the way you're supposed to work drugs. And I was working he had a grocery store, but that was just like it was really a spot. You know what I mean? So he used to sell half a grams. That's all, just half a grams. And he'll sell
So
thousands.
the grocery store was, like, sort of the legitimate business
Yeah,
front?
it is, and it was selling good, and he was selling good.
Yeah, and then can I ask a little bit about the women folk, if you will? So, you said that there's a woman and, you wanna start to help provide for her and, probably take her out nice, dress, buy her
Yeah,
things, all the things that you date. Um, did she I'm just again asking for the sake of the interview. How did she feel, or did she even know about this sort of I'm not going to be necessarily a straight electrician anymore. I'm going to do this. Do the women like know what's going on, or do they sort of like knowingly look away? Like, how does that work? I'm really curious about
she's
that.
sort of something like she will look away. She was so young, naive. She was such a sweetheart. Back then, women respect men so much. They won't doubt. They won't even doubt. They won't question. They won't say anything. They will just keep their mouth shut. I mean, once in a while, she will come to me and say, when she sees me with a 45 on my wrist and stuff, she will say, "I don't, you probably could get arrested for carrying a gun," and because she was a little bit smarter than I was when it comes to thinking about consequences. Because
Yeah, women sometimes have that reputation, right?
yeah, well, she was born in the states. She's Dominican descent, but she was born in the states, so she knows the laws. She knows way better than I do about all these things. So, yeah. As a matter of fact,
But she didn't really ask you what you were doing. She's just like, "Hey, but you might want to be careful about that." Is that what you're saying?
yes, 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 yes. Well, like I say, when I was working for Lewis and I had this problem with this guy and I shot him. I didn't kill him, but I shot him. I shot him really hard with a 357, and I ran home. Not to mention that I dressed like a woman to get out of that block. I got dressed like a woman. Got in a car with my father, dressing like a woman with lipsticks, with a wave and everything, high heels and everything, because the cops were looking for me. And I left to my house. Then from there, I took a plane to Miami. From Miami, I took a plane to Dominican until everything comes down. And she was crying. She was like, and she was like, "Oh my God, that's what I wanted to happen. I didn't want you to get involved in shootings and things like that." She's worrying about my life. So yeah, she was very concerned about that.
And how long did you have to kinda be away?
No, for only a few months. Because Louis called me back and said, I spoke to the guy that you shot, and I gave him some money, and
He's gonna
because really,
he's gonna
I mean, I didn't want to shot the guy. The guy came up to me with a gun. He was really gonna shoot me. So it's like like the John Wayne thing. I pulled my thing out first and I shot him. And he's lucky I didn't kill him because I hit him with a 357. That's a very the bullets are huge bullets. And but then my cousin spoke to him and give him some good money and tell him, because nobody knew my name. That's another thing. They just call me Blondie. Blondie, Blondie, Blondie. Nobody knows who shot who what's his name, but nothing. So what it did was he went and falsely report the thing, not mention my name or anything, and he didn't claim it again. He didn't went again to court, nothing, and nobody was hunting for me anymore.
so that's how it goes. Got it.
Yeah.
This is like a this is a lecture edition. Well, later we'll make a workbook. No, I'm just kidding. But it's really fascinating to how all the systems work together, how all the people work together inside the system, outside of the system. And you say it very matter of fact, but there's a lot of people who really don't know that world and don't really know how those things work. So thank you for breaking it down. Um, okay. So now we're gonna fast forward maybe a little bit into Karen and Mike and Set 5 Time, and just again, just to cover it, and then we're gonna keep going. But just to say, so things have scaled. Came back, and now you have come to rise yourself independently, right? As
Yes.
somebody.
I started growing in the business. Louis got arrested, and I was the one that got him out. Because when I left his spot, he took over, and because I was in charge of everything. He didn't have to do anything. But then when I left, we had a disagreement. As a matter of fact, with his wife, I had a disagreement. And I left the guy, and he was doing it all by himself and another guy. And then he gets arrested. He gets arrested, and then I left to Brooklyn. That's when I went to Brooklyn, East New York, with my cousin Angelo. They call him Angelito. Uh, I call him Chito. And I left to Brooklyn. He called me up. He said, Adam, I need you. I heard you had a problem on the Lower East Side. Please come work for me. And I went out, he says, I have a lot of problems with the blacks, with the Jamaicans, and they give me a hard time. I know you got balls. Maybe you will come and work for me. I said, fine. So I went over there and I said things, I settled everything down. I put in a nice operation. But they rented the spot while I was in this spot. The spot was hot and I didn't know. That was on New Latin for a month. And
I'm sorry, can I ask, when you say, is it, I don't know if it really even matters, but is it by different kinds of drug categories, meaning, or is it sort of like a variety? Meaning, is it just cocaine and you get it from a certain thing, or is it like whatever you want, almost like a store, and then you serve, so like, or is it that certain groups have certain controls on certain industries? Because I've heard it broken down in different ways.
yes, yes. When you sell ecstasy, you sell ecstasy. When you sell heroin, you sell heroin. You sell weed, you're good at weed. I was good in cocaine. I didn't like heroin. I didn't like it. I ended up selling heroin later on, late 90s, when I was out of the cocaine business. But the heroin, I never liked heroin because the way people was walking around the streets, all drug addict, all messed up, and I didn't like. I felt that was a very nasty drug. That's the way I saw it. Cocaine, on the other hand, people get high when they go to the clubs and they feel happy. You can see them; they look happy. I mean, I had to mention that crack cocaine really messed up a lot of people, but I didn't sell crack. That's not what I do. My thing was always cocaine. Uh, so I went up the ladder little by little. I went up the ladder, and then I started to meet very important people because when there was a shortage of cocaine, 1986. There was there was no cocaine in the street. There was nothing, and if you don't have any money, you didn't get nothing. You have to have money up front, and I had the money. So uh, that's when you take control of the good connections. That's when the good connections come to you and say, "Well, there's a guy named Adam, and he's got money, and my drugs is guaranteed with him. You know, he could guarantee that my drug is not going to get lost because he's got money." And that's how I started to get good connection, especially from the Medellin cartel.
So
And
the Medellin cartel, that's, it's a pretty established, well-known cartel,
yeah,
yes.
back then they were big, like huge, 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 huge.
And they did have, the sort of dominant monopoly, but also even the quality supposedly was a distinguishing
The best,
factor,
the
right?
best.
The best. So, I say this as someone who knows really nothing except that I've heard all you guys talk. Okay, so I was like, but I was at, so on last Monday, we were at Business Insider with Mike, and they were talking about his first show, how crime works, and he mentioned you. And he talked about, because they asked, how did you meet Baron, how did you meet Adam, they went through everyone, and what was it like. And he said that what he heard about you was that, and it sounds kind of silly, but it's very important, right? That your reputation was, and I don't mean the things that around toughness or shootings or any of that, but I mean, like, as a businessman, as if we were looking at this like we would for, references for a banker, he said that the reputation was that Adam does what he says he's gonna do. So, like you said, you had the money to make the purchase, you had the good quality, and if you said you would be there or you would be there or price, that's what
Yes, I had the money,
and
and I mean, I'm always, since I was a kid, because that's what my father taught me. I don't lay your hands on no woman. He never laid his hands on my mother. Back then, any man would slap his wife, would do crazy stuff. My father, he was very educated, very cultured. His family come from Spain, and he's very like very. He's a lovely person. He's a lovely person. He gives my mother nothing but love. That's all he gives my mother, love. So he told me, don't lay your hands on a woman if you have a problem with your wife. Because he saw me a couple of times having an argument with my wife, my ex-wife Larissa, and he says, and I saw your intentions, Adam, and don't put your hands on a woman, don't do that, and just if you can't get along with her, just leave her, leave the woman, leave her, just leave, don't put your hands on her, and but he told me that, and so you know it's like I was very respectful when it come to my world and kids and and business. When I do business with a person and I give them my word, I keep my word, and I'll be very honest. Like I would better off losing money. Like that. There was this guy named Franklin, the guy that in the 7-5 documentary we talk about Franklin. We were friends first. He was not a stick up kid, but he got involved in drugs. He was using a lot of drugs. He became a dope head. He was sticking up just about everybody. And so that was a time that him and I we shoot at each other. He shot at me, I shoot at him. Nobody killed nobody, but we shot. We keep shooting. And then there was a friend of mine. What we call him Henry 04. He was a taxi driver. His number was 04 for Caddy car in Brooklyn. He was a friend of him. He was also a friend of mine. And he says, Adam, I want you guys to have a meeting with me, both of you. Because you guys, he's not a bad guy. When he's in his little word, you in your word. Let's have a meeting. You don't need to kill each other. And I agree. We agreed to a meeting. He came to the meeting with a Uzi. I came to the meeting unarmed because I didn't believe that was necessary. If I give you my word that I'm not going to hurt you, I'm not going to hurt you. Because if I wanted to hurt you, you won't even make it to my spot. I have plenty of guys working for me. They all have guns. But then when this guy came, I told him, I said, Franklin, put that stuff away. If you're going to talk to me, you're going to talk to me. If you're ready to kill me, you're not going to make it out of here alive, man. Trust me. So he put the Uzi down. We started talking. And I said, what's the problem? I'm a businessman. Just tell me, what do you want? So he started saying, "Oh, Adam, I'm sorry, but I'm doing really bad and I'm not making enough money." Blah 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 blah. I said, "No problem. Here's $100,000. Get away from my block. I don't want to see you again ever." He was so happy. It was unbelievable. He grabbed 100,000 and he left to Dominican. And he was in Dominican having fun until he wasted all the money. So and then another time he came again asking, begging for money. I gave him a $10,000, and I said, "I'm not giving you no more money. Stop messing around with me." And then he left me alone. But then his partner Coke, they call him Coke, the short guy. He sent a few Puerto Rican guys to stick up my place, and that's when they threw one of my guys out the window from the third floor and everything. And then that's when All hell style,
It
all hell loses.
yeah, it escalated from there. Thank you for the candidness. It's fascinating. I think it's fascinating because we all move through the same society, the same department store when you go to buy, I don't know, your underwear or whatever, like your basic necessities, right? Or you go to the right? And then like you pass someone and you never know that their world is so different than your world.
Yes.
And I think that's a lot of what I'm trying to do is learn and share like how we all think that our world is the only one and how they kind of go together. And I wanna go back because we are gonna talk about what you're doing and involved with today, and also how it's essentially really going back to your roots on a lot of levels and your family history. And, you know, you talked a lot today about your father and the dignity and respect and care, and this is how you should treat other people, and this is how you treat women, and I want you to focus on education. But meanwhile, you went a little bit probably in a different direction than
Yes.
he would have liked. How did that work? Because you did tell me the story about so I said father, I meant his brother, who came and said to you, like, "I love you, but you can't come around here anymore because you're involved in criminal and stuff and activities, and I don't want my daughters" like that some of the family was trying to honor you, but distance because they were worried. And it's a real reason because there are people getting shot and thrown out windows, right? So it's understandable. At the same time, I think some people wonder how does that work in a family system where not everyone's in the business?
Well, you got to, if I recall, back in those days when I became a very big drug dealer, when I was very successful. I mean, I had all the expensive cars. I had a Ferrari. Three Porsches at the same time. I had Mercedes. I had good vehicles. I was wearing good clothing. I was wearing, good jewelry. Not that now that's fancy, thick jewelry, but no, but Cartier, Patek Philippe, quality jewelry. And so remember, I'm a young guy. I'm in my 20s, and I'm very handsome. I'm very full of life. And all these women in the family and all these young girls, remember, teenagers, they admire me. They looked at me like a hero, like, wow, cousin Adam, cousin Adam. They love me. But, and I'm good dancing salsa. They love salsa, and I'm good at it. And we used to go clubbing, but some family members like Papi, Julio Cesar Palma, he says, look, I don't want you, around my daughters. I like you, and I love you. I love you so much. And you could come if you need me, give me a call. We meet somewhere, and if I help you in something, I'm more than willing to help you. But I don't want you around my family. I don't want you around my daughters because you live in a life that's not what I want for my daughters. That's not what I want around my daughters. And I wish. And he said very seriously. He was so serious. He was depressed in how he said it to me. He got very upset when he says, Adam, I can't wait until the day you leave that business alone. I can't wait for you to live that lifestyle. Leave. Don't keep selling drugs. Just leave that lifestyle, Adam. But I will say, okay, but no. It was, at the end of the road, I was doing what I.
It was too good. It was too shiny. It was too bright and wonderful, and you were on the top. So
Yes,
really was he offering except for just be good, you know? And so be good, but then you think, "Well, when I was good, I didn't make enough money to take my girl out to a nice dinner,
exactly.
so why would I do that?" I'm
Exactly.
not justifying it, I'm just trying to rationalize your
Well,
mindset,
that's
right?
the way it was because it really was that way. Because I used to work for him and he didn't pay me enough. I worked for this Italian guy, an Arab guy. They didn't pay me enough, and I was not asking for millions. I was asking for what's fair, you know. Because this other
Yeah,
guy's
and so
making
that
$32 an
you could
hour.
live
This,
like them, yeah.
this guy's making $32 an hour. Why would I make only $8 an hour? Come on. So and then selling drugs. It was so the money moves so quick. Like you start, I wasn't even getting a good sleep. Like I would close my business down around 11 o'clock at night. Then I got to go home with big bags of money. garbage, big garbage bag, the black ones, and I used to come there with a couple of guys and start counting money, and with machines, not hand, the machines counting money, and it was all the way up to 3 o'clock in the morning. And then I sleep a couple of hours, 3 or 4 hours, and then I get up again and I go open up my store again. You know, and I was really working hard. What I was selling drugs, yeah, but I was working hard, like really hard. So um, and then like weekends, I
Is
take
this like every day? Oh, I was about to ask you
every
that.
day,
Sorry. This is like
every day,
every day.
every day. Yes. I took a break when I was really big, 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 and then I have people working for me, like people that I could trust, like Elvis Casada, my brother-in-law. I let him in charge, and look, the minute I let somebody in charge, they messed up. Yeah,
Well,
yeah,
that happens across many industries, right?
yeah. I left to Dominican. I left to
You see
Dominican. I give him I give him the car key because I trust the guy like a brother. I gave him the car key, and the first thing I told the guy, look, I had a Ford Bronco that I used because winter time, it's a good truck to go fast from point A to point B. And I told him, don't bring the truck and don't bring the expensive car to the stores. Take a taxi or take. I had a
because it draws
LT. I had an
because
LT,
it draws
a 4 LT.
it draws attention.
Huh?
I'm sorry, don't bring it because it draws attention? Like,
Exactly.
why
Yeah.
I know.
You can't bring
Yeah,
a Porsche to your spot. Can't bring the Bronco to the
in
spot. Now,
in a
Elvis,
low
the
income.
minute I turn around and I go to Dominican, he comes and he puts a bulletproof vest. He's walking around with an Uzi and he's driving the Bronco, bringing a lot of attention to him. And I told and then when he gets arrested, not only that, I told him that look, the spy, it was in Van Sicklen and Atlantic, and that was under his name. The store, it was a grocery store under his name. All the licenses, the beer license, the liquor license, everything was under his name. So I told him, I don't want you at the store. I had an apartment nearby. I said, you're gonna be in that apartment, and you're gonna have the guys doing everything. You're gonna be vigilant. You're gonna be watching these guys, but you cannot be not a second. I don't want you a second there. And the minute I walked out to the Dominican, he starts going into the store. Guess what? He was the one that made the sale to the federal agent. Inside the counter, he was the one making the sale, counting the money, talking to the federal agent, being recorded. That's how my first spot got busted. And it was all his fault. So when I came back and I did my investigation, the lawyers that represented him, uh, they were friends of mine. And they told me he fucked up, Adam. He sold 2 kilograms of cocaine to an undercover agent, and he did it right behind the counter. And the store's under his name. I say, well, I know. And and then I told the rest of the guys that didn't get arrested. I say, what happened? What was the part you guys missed? I mean, the minute I turn around, Elvis is doing this, and you guys, none of you guys. I mean, it never went through your head to grab a phone and call me to Dominican and tell me, look, Adam, Elvis is doing this and doing this wrong. If you call me and let me know, I come right back, take him off the business, have someone more responsible. But nobody did. And then you had 12 guys getting arrested that night. And I know it because the minute they read the place, there was a girl that I had on the fourth floor, a girlfriend, very young girl too. She was like 18, and she called me. She said, Adam, they ready your spot? Say, oh, okay. So, remember, there was no video calls back then. There's no cell phone. We calling direct phone call online. So she calls me here to Dominican. I was here in Dominican, and she says, and she was telling me step by step what they were doing. Even when they put the whole 12 guys in front of the store and they took a picture and they put it in the newspaper the next day. And guess what was the front page article? Says Elvis Casada from Washington Heights with a drug factory in his New York.
So the moral of the story is just can't get good help these days. Yeah. No, I'm kidding. But that's what they say. If you want a job done right, no. So there's a lot of layers to that, and to the young woman who was the witness to this. But also how things worked. So now fast forward through to, I guess, the beginning of your sort of time when you had to be incarcerated. You wanna talk about that? Like, so where did it go from there? Because there was a lot of things that changed. A lot of policing changed, the law changed, the
Well,
right? The
well,
art changed.
not to mention that that day, Michael Dodd went straight to the store and told Elvis, close it down, close it down. But he didn't listen. But anyway, after that, then I waited a few months. I found out through my lawyers everything was cool. Nobody was saying nothing about me except, Elvis was cooperating against other people, including Mike, which I didn't know. I didn't know. Uh, and After that, I
I mean,
regrouped.
in that way, it's really tough, right? Because everyone starts to have opinions about snitches and rats and that kind of thing, but also everyone has their own behind and their own family and their own sphere and the threats that are against them. So some people, it's not right. I mean, it's not that simple.
Exactly. Well, Elvis, I gave it to Elvis. He never talked. He never talked. Never say a word about me. Never. He blamed everything on some other people. Never blamed nothing on me. Never mentioned my name. And but after that, I came back to the country, and I came back to New York City, and I regrouped my spot. Because I had several spots. That was not the only spot I have. I have other people working in other areas, and I was not only selling drugs in a low scale, like in that store, I was selling half a grams, grams, ounces, big eights. But then I was selling kilos from another office in the Bronx and selling kilos in another office in Brooklyn, office apartments where I have clients that, Jamaican guys and black guys and Puerto Rican guys calling me, we want 10 kilos, we want 5 kilos, we want 15 kilos, they give me the money.
And where do they then move it to, like, individual customers? Or, like,
Yes.
I think of all
Different
the
area,
movies about
different areas. Some of the customers come from Queens, some of the come from the Bronx, some of the from New Jersey. They come from all over because I got good coke. I got the best coke, and you spread the word. And not everybody had coke back then like that much. You know, so um, I regrouped my play. I regrouped my organization, and I started all over again. And that's when I opened up a few more spots like the one on Blake Avenue and Barbie. That spot, Mike got me that spot through an ex-cop that owned that grocery store, and I bought it from the guy, and I regrouped my people there. And I remember, I remember they were giving me police surveillance from the helicopter all the way on the top. I remember that. uh, it's crazy. It's crazy. Look, the this guy that was Manolo. Manolo is one of my friends from back in the childhood from Dominican Republic. I bought him a visa, $5,000 I paid for that visa, and I got him to the States. Right, him and his brother. I paid visas and I got him there, and they were working for me. And he calls me up. I'm in Manhattan. He calls me up and say, Adam, um, there's a helicopter, and he doesn't move. He's really high up in the sky, but he doesn't move. So I say, what? And I started, I had a bike. I had a Ninja, a 1000 Kawasaki. And remember, I don't even weigh 100 pounds. I'm very skinny. I got into that bike and I made it to, from Washington Heights to all the way East New York in less than 15 minutes. That's how fast I did it. Okay. And the guy, Raphael, was the manager that I had there, the guy in charge. And Raphael goes, where were you, Adam? I say, I was in Dykeman. And he goes, you mother flower. I don't want to say the other thing. How do you make it so fast here? I say, I just speed up here. He says, you couldn't kill yourself. because the guy likes me. The guy loves me. He says, don't you fucking ever do that. Just tell me through the phone what you want me to do and I'll do it, but don't never do that. And I said, no, I wanted to see it by myself because I have binoculars, but they didn't know. So I went up to the office. I got my binoculars. I looked through the window, and yes, there were cops that were doing surveillance on my store. So I told the guys, close it down. Let's get out of here. We got to move this back somewhere else. So the probably informant telling the cops where we operating at now, and I don't want you guys at risk. So we left that spot somewhere else.
You know, it's interesting to me. Another thing that since hearing you talk a bunch, hearing Mike talk, hearing interesting, like whether it's military, law enforcement, or organized, can I say organized crime? You know, it's interesting to me that it's like this brotherhood inside when you're in the inside of it, whatever your group is, right? So if you're the good boy police, if you're the medium good boy police, or not so good, like Mike's group, like all of them each had like the code of this is how we look out for each other. And it's just very interesting psychologically because look at the culture rules. Like in a different spot, these some things are illegal, some things are not, free trade, whatever you want to call it. But it's interesting how these stories go because often there's a lot of affection that everybody talks about for one another, and then how if someone like Elvis, did something for his own self and for all of you and the 11 other people that got arrested with him, he could have tried to take everyone with him, and he didn't. I'm not saying who's good or who's bad in here. I'm just remarking on it.
Well,
Interesting to me, like the rules of the way you everyone
listen,
agrees and
listen. I have friends. I have friends and family in the military, including my nephew who passed away a long time ago. And my father had a first cousin named Nacho, and he went to Vietnam War, my father's era. And I remember Nacho coming to my house dressing as a military guy. And he told my father, when Adam, they all love me since I was a kid. He says, when Adam started growing up, I want to sign him up in the military. I liked that the military. I didn't love it. I have admiration, but not for that type of military. I wanted to be a pilot, maybe like a Top Gun thing. I wanted to, fly a plane or a helicopter. I didn't want to be in the, in the battlefield or anything like that. Or
the
maybe,
infantry.
yeah, or maybe I used to love these movies where they have they have the submarines and they have the technology guys there controlling everything. I like that, you know, and guess
But you
what?
didn't want to be in a sea of marching infantry. That wasn't clearly
Yeah, I don't like that.
because that's what that
I think that was for stupid people. That's the way I saw it. Okay, so
okay.
now, um, remember, I have friends in the military. There was a friend of mine. His name is Julio Gomez. This guy went to school with me. We grew up. We went different pathways. At the end of our lives, he became a chief coast guard in Miami, a pilot. And guess what? When I was on drugs, selling drugs, and he was still in the academy, he used to say, Adam, can you lend me your porch? And I said, why? He said, because I'm going out with a girl, with a nice girl in the academy. Can you lend me your porch? I mean, I had a red candy red, nice, beautiful convertible. I said, hey, take it. And he'll go in my porch. And then I had the 930 Turbo, the gold one. He loves it too. He likes speed. He likes to speed. No wonder he's a pilot.
But but he couldn't buy those things because the
Exactly.
system that he was
And he's
in,
a
following the
military
rules.
guy. He's a military guy. And this guy,
So he wanted
he,
to follow the rules, but he also wanted to take the girl out in a fancy car.
and
Right?
guess what? I did time. I got arrested. I came out of jail and we reunited. And I remember I was already separated from my first wife. I had a second wife, an Italian girl, half Italian, half Puerto Rican, named Kimberly Antonetti. And Kimberly was gorgeous, beautiful woman. And Kimberly calls me up and she says, Adam, you need to come urgent to the house. I say, why? What happened? And she said, just come over. Just get your ass over here. And I was spinning to the house. And then when I get to the house, she says, some guy just called on the phone now. And I asked him who he is. And he says, U.S. Coast Guard Julio Gomez. I said, he's a friend of mine. She said, no, he sounds like a federal guy. I said, well, he's a federal guy, but he's a friend of mine. So Julio calls me up, and then we had a long conversation. Then he visited me, and he says, Adam, I heard you back in the games. When are you going to learn, man? Come on. And you know, this guy he's so funny.
They were all so it's just like you said. So Julio, your uncle, like there were a lot of people who were kind of like, "Come on, man!" Like and you're like, "Okay, I respect you and that you're not into this, but I like my money
Yeah,
and
but
my
he
things."
was he was so funny. Julio was so funny. He unbelievable, unbelievably funny. He tells me, he says, Adam, we confiscated like 5,000 kilos on the Miami coast. And when we confiscated all these kilos out of this huge yacht, and all I was thinking was about you. And I said, what was you thinking of? He goes, I say, oh, but only Adam can get his hands on all this stuff. Maybe I can make some money, but then I say, nah. That's this is the way
Yeah, but
people think sometimes.
he's a human being, and on the other hand, Mike had those thoughts and
Yeah.
decided to step over
The
the line, and I'm
devil.
not judging,
The devil is always
but me.
pinching you. The devil's always pinching you in the ass. This is the
I
way it
know,
is.
but whether the devil is a ice cream cone if you're trying to be on a diet, or the devil is, I'm just saying,
Hold on, hold on.
different for everyone, but I think everyone can understand that there's like a gray line and you dance up and around it depending wherever you come from.
Yeah.
And like my job isn't to say what's okay and not okay. I'm just here for the story. And I find it really interesting the way you had those kinds of people around you and the way you had those conversations and the way you reflect on them over time. So now, how can I ask how I for just again for the story, how when you were incarcerated for the longer bit of time, like the time from when you did that and then how you came back to the DR. Can you talk me through a little bit about this chapter now, a little later in life?
Yeah, I did time in Raybrook. As a matter of fact, I was there. I did time in MCC, New York with John Gotti, the father. I spent time with him. I had conversations with him. Then I spent time with his son on Raybrook, John Gotti Jr. We became friends. And not friends, but we used to go to the gym together, stuff like that.
No, known acquaintance, just
Very,
an
very nice
acquaintance.
guy, very decent, so different, so decent. He's like me, a family guy. He likes family. He loves his kids. That's the like, that's the we have a lot of things in common. And also the things we had in common was that he was always thinking about the future. He will always ask me, how will it be if I go to Dominican and live in Dominican, and how would I invest my money? He'll ask me questions like that. But I haven't, I never came back to Dominican after I got arrested the first time. And as an adult, I was never here. I was always, in New York. So I didn't have an answer for him. I say many of my family have a lot of money invested in businesses in Dominican, but I didn't grow up there. I don't know as an adult how am I going to make it there? I don't know. Only time will know. And I say, but I guess real estate would be good, and it is always in an island like this one where there's a lot of ocean life. There's always good money on real estate.
Right, and there's a limit in supply and demand because it's not right? There's only so many oceanfront properties if you
It's
want a
never
hotel.
enough. We're surrounded by beaches. It's never enough.
Right.
So so I did time in Rayburg, did time in penitentiaries like Lewisburg. I did time in another county. I did like 17 years of my life behind bars. And and
And you say it very casually, Adam, if I can interrupt you again. All in all, I did 17 years. That's a lot of time.
it
That's a
is,
lot.
it is, and it is not. And you know what's amazing?
Okay.
And you know what's amazing? I became. I'm not gonna say I'm a celebrity or famous guy, but I people got to know me in the world because I even got people in Ukraine, in Great Britain, in Australia. They write to me on Instagram and Twitter from all over the world. And and to be honest, you know, um, I did all those years of my life behind bars, And they always ask me the same thing. They always ask me the same thing. How much time did you do? How was it inside? And I said, you know, the first question that most of them ask me is, how does it feel that you used to have so much money and now you don't have money, and things like that. And my answer to them was, it's a process. It's a process. When you go and do time behind bars in the States, here in Dominican is different, in Latin America, but in the States it's different. I said, you have nothing, because even what you can purchase and what you can, the money that you will spend in there is limited. The commissary spending limit and all that. And then people are the same. They're all the same. I mean, not really all the same, because I had Italian guys, mafia guys that was living large in there, and a Chinese guy. I had a friend of my Chinese guy, Johnny Onion Head Johnny, big Chinese mafia boss. And this guy got everything in his room. Even the cops bring him all the stuff all the time. But only few people will make it out that way. And it's crazy, how it's a process where you have so much money and now you don't have it, but it doesn't matter because everyone is the same in there. And then it's a process in a way that you had everything in the street: beautiful woman, money, jewelry, everything you name of it, you have it, right? In there, you don't have nothing, and it takes a while before you get used to it. And then when you get out, when you come out of jail, all that money you had before you went in, you don't really need it anymore. You don't, because you already spent
because
you spend so
you
much
got used to
time.
basically having nothing.
Exactly, you spend so much time behind bars with nothing that when you get out, you already got used to it, and you be like, no, I don't. Like, okay, like some friends of mine, they come in from New York and they say, Adam, how does it feel? You over there in Dominican, you stuck in Dominican? I say, okay. I say, I'm not stuck in Dominican. I love New York. I wish I could go back to the States. I do. I love New York so much. And I don't blame Trump for doing what he's doing. I agree with him in a lot of things. I don't agree with him in a lot of things. But the U.S. government, they made it very clear to you. You violate the laws, you violate federal law, you get deported. Simple as that. There's no way around. And when you're in the game and you know these things, then you can't complain when they do what they do to you. You just can't complain. You have to agree, and it's simple as that. So um, I get out of jail. I come here. My friends called me and they told me, "Oh, you're stuck in Dominican," and I said, Hold on. I was locked up for so many years. I couldn't control my television. Cops come and control it for all of us. They even told me like a little kid when to go to sleep, when to get up, when to go to work, what kind of clothing I gotta wear, what you gotta eat. They control everything. So I say now I'm back home and I could control my television. I could have a woman whenever I want to. That's the thing that we most miss, man, miss in behind bar. When you're a woman lover, when you love women so much, you need woman. It's like the most important thing in your life. And when you have a woman now, and you can control the television, you can control the food you drink, and you can have coffee whenever you want. Like right now, I'm here having a cigar with a cup of wine and a little bit of whiskey. You can't have those things in there. So now I have all of this. Why would I complain? I can't complain.
And yeah,
I'm happy.
you taking responsibility, like, you're like, "I broke the law and I got in trouble, and they said if you do that, you have to leave, so I got kicked out." I mean, I'm oversimplifying, but that's what you're basically saying.
It is.
And it's a very mature way to talk about something that's kind of really hard to get my head around, but it's incredible. I remember a story you told me, it seems to me like you were always one of those people who is, like, too big for a small box. So you told me, well, the first time that I impromptu didn't know I was gonna talk to you through Mike, and you started talking about, "Oh, yeah, I used to also do bullfighting in the," and we were like, "What?" And you're like, "Yeah, yeah,
And
I was just like
sharks.
this skinny little,"
And sharks.
and sure, and having a, I mean, you said you barely weighed 100 pounds, and how much What does a bull weigh? Like 300, I mean, a lot. Like, I don't even know how much a bull weighs,
Well,
but I would just say
a bull is like 1,000 pounds or more.
1,000 pounds. Okay, I'm
It's
sorry.
huge.
Exactly.
It's huge. Big
Yeah,
black,
and
big
so
black and big white, huge bull. And you know, I'm a
you
kid. I'm a kid in Dominican. That was before I went to the States. And I'm a little
yeah,
kid. And there's a huge farm. There's a huge farm behind my house, my father's house. We had a huge house, and this is a huge farm. I mean, so it's so huge. You can't walk. You had to use horses to go around, and it takes you days. I mean, that's like going to Montana and stuff like that, big mountains, you know. And
yeah.
the guy who owns that farm, he's a general. He's a military guy, and he's very famous in the area back then. And he have so many cows, so many bulls, so many horses. I mean, sheep. He had everything, and but also he had trees, fruit trees. You know, like mangoes, and we used to love mangoes. And
Who doesn't?
and there's a fruit. And there's a fruit rich on vitamin C. It's called nipero. Nipero is brown and it's soft when it
Okay.
gets, you know, when it's good to eat. It's soft and it's one of the most richest fruits that has the in vitamin C. I mean, like 20 times more than an orange. So imagine. So we go in that farm and steal oranges and steal mangoes and still, it's a huge farm. The guy, the manager of that farm, he doesn't even care. You know, he will say, look, you can come into the farm, just be careful with the animals and don't break my fences. Don't, you know, try to go around from the top. Don't break it because if you do that, I'm not going to let you back in. Okay. But we used to go, a whole group of us, a whole bunch
This
of
is
us.
like a this is a DR version of the Peter Rabbit story, and you guys are you're the Peter Rabbit, right? You go in there to the farm and you're like, "I could get this." Then you let the friends in a little bit.
Hey, remember that there's a TV series show. It's called The Little Rascals. Yeah,
Yes.
we used to be like that. We used to do crazy
I'm
stuff.
shocked. I'm just shocked.
Yeah. So
So,
so
yeah,
we used
so
to go into that farm. Me in particular, me and my friend Elias, we used to go there. If we get on top of the bull, we used to mess with them because back in those days, the favorite movies and shows was about bullfighting in Spain.
mm,
So that was like normal. That was now it's like, oh my God, no. Back then it was normal. You grab a big red piece of material, you go in the farm and you mess around with the bulls. That was just simple as that. And you didn't
sure,
care. You
that's
didn't care,
what
you know.
every mom wants their 8-year-old son doing in the
Well,
bowl
we
in the
did it. A couple of friends of mine really got hurt, like really seriously hurt by
yeah,
this
don't tell me
bull.
about that, but I can imagine.
And
So
not, and
that's
not
I
even
guess I'm
not
trying
even not even with the horn. I don't know why. But they won't go they wouldn't go against us like that. They will try to hit us with the feet. They will try to hurt us with that, especially the
like
horses.
go off.
They had wild horses in there, and we used to try to. I know I'm good with the horses, and I used to ride horses like crazy. I had good horses in my farm when I finally was a rich man and became very wealthy. I bought like 3,000 acre, and I have a lot of horses, and I had good horses. Horses that I brought all the way from Arab countries that they walk really nice. We call it um, we call it paso fino. They have horses like this in Argentina, Chile, Colombia. Eh,
So free,
Yeah,
finely moving with
I
it.
used to buy horses from Colombia like $200,000 for a horse. You know,
Yeah, plus you have to keep it,
yeah, and it's
feed it.
true horse, and we used to do that stuff like that. And then when I was a kid, I also used to go with my brother, my big brother. He's not a blood brother. He grew up in my house because he didn't have a family. My father took him under his arm, and he grew up. Rafaelito El Truque, he became a drug dealer too back in New York. And Rafaelito, he used to be a shark hunter. He used to actually go in the sea and hunt, not with the tanks or anything, just like that. He used to jump and hunt the sharks. So he taught me how to do it. So I used to go in there and go around, swim around them like nothing. And it was crazy. Now I look back and I say, what was in my fucking mind? That's crazy. But I did it. I did it. And people, a lot of people don't know, like what real danger is. That's really real
And I
danger.
think the adrenaline, I mean, as someone who does very careful adrenaline rushes myself, with sports, right? Or skiing or jumping off, I get you want, like you said, we want action, you want movement.
Yeah.
It's just what
Now,
container you
now,
put it in.
now I do windsurfing in windsurfing in Cabareta. With my brother has a spot there, like it's called like a resort. He have buildings there with nice apartments, and they do the windsurfing. It's nice. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, and you get the speed and the action, but there's nothing that's gonna bite your arm off, so that's a little better, I think, or gore your insides. Just like, it's like wearing a helmet on the motorcycle when you didn't at 100 something miles an hour in the rain. So let's talk about the cigars, and let's talk about the family history with the cigars, yeah?
Well, cigars. I wasn't even interested in cigars because I was never in that business when I had all this money. Never, never, never crossed my mind. Back in the days in the 80s when I became very wealthy. I wanted to make a bottle of wine, and it's not even about my name because I was not there was no. It would never cross my mind that in the future they were going to make a documentary about my life, 7-5, whatever. It never crossed my mind. I never. Um, but I always look into the wine business because my family is also into that in Spain. So, but my family, I come from a family that they own farms back in the 70s, and back when Trujillo was a dictator back in this country. They own huge farms, and they used to grow tobacco leaves, and they sell the tobacco leaves to the tabacaleras. We didn't have huge tabacaleras here in Dominican. They have it in Nicaragua, they had it in Colombia, in all those places, but they didn't have them here. But only a couple of them, and practically belongs to the government. So, but they used to grow the tobacco leaves. My family used to grow that, and they used to grow the product where they make the chocolate from, and they used to grow avocados, and they used to grow coffee, and and I'm talking about in a huge amount, huge. So
Yeah, they say the
like
soil, right? The soil is very simpatico for those crops.
yeah, I used to, yeah, the land, the type of dirt, the farm, when they grow this plant is all black sand, black dirt, and it's really good for that kind of product. And they vacation time comes in. So my mother used to grab all of us, four of us, put us in the car, and I used to remember I used to vomit it the whole way, all the way to the mountains, and we used to go to all the way to the mountains, really high in the mountains, where my grandfather had the farm, and we used to go there, and I see all the tobacco leaves. It was amazing. It's beautiful, green, beautiful, and then I used to see the process how they make it. And it was nice. I remember my great grandfather, which is my grandmother's father. He used to grab milk from the cow right in front of me, right there. He used to squeeze it out of it and give it to me in the cup and say, "Here." And he used to say, "You can grab the teats from the cow." But I was scared. I was like, you know, I respect the cow. I don't know why I respect the cow more than I respect the bull, but I respect the cow. And he used to give me that milk. I don't forget his face. He had a red face. He was a white guy with deep blue eyes, and his face was red like a tomato. It was crazy. He looked scary. That's how I seen it. and
I don't know if it was sunburn or high blood pressure or rosacea, but I get it.
I think what it was so healthy. He lived 100 something years old. He lives 100 something years old. And my family, they like that. As a matter of fact, I have an uncle right now, my father's uncle. He's 104 years old right now, and he still talks to you clearly. Good memory. It's crazy. He lives in New Jersey now. And so, that's my family. So, um, time goes by. I become a drug dealer. I became so huge, and I did, this stuff. And then I come back to the country. My family's not into that business anymore. Uh, but I come across this woman named Chris Melly. I have two daughters with her, and she's related to that industry. She's related to the tabacaleras, not the tobacco making farms, but the tabacaleras, the one that makes the habano. They make the cigars. It's a totally different thing. And her father, he didn't even know about my life story. He found out in New York. He went visited New York, and he finds out. He comes back. Adam, we need to talk. So what do you want to talk about? He said, I want to talk about the cigar business. I say, what about it? He said, you have a huge story, Adam. You have a huge story to tell the world. And maybe it's a good idea we make a cigar with your name. And I say, I don't know about that, but we could try. I don't know. I don't have any more money like that. That takes a lot of money. He said, don't worry about the money. So he takes me to this guy named Hochi Blanco. And look, my second last name is Palma.
You want to explain second last name?
My second last name is Palma. My name is Adam Diaz Palma.
No entiendo. Entiendo, pero can you explain for those who are not aware, what does it mean, my second last name?
My second last name is Palma. Palma is like the palm tree. It's a palm tree. Now,
And the name came from adonde?
my mother,
Where did the name?
my mother's last name.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's where the tobacco leaves comes from. So this guy takes me to this guy.
It's a little on the nose, right? The name is the substance. The
Exactly.
palma del pan. It's
Well,
like in the listen, in the old stories where they give the character the name of their personality, you know?
well, a lot of people, like they wrote this article on the New York Post about me washing money with the cigar business. Oh crap. So anyway,
That's a whole nother topic too, about all the things that they think you do that you don't even do, but there's plenty that you did, but there's also a lot that has nothing to do with anything. Like Mike had this story about he had 7 murders, and I'm not saying he's a Boy Scout or I condone anything, but he claims, he's never killed anyone, and it could go away. And people make up stories.
well, I shot people. I never killed anybody, thank God. And maybe it would have been in my conscience, but I did shot people. People that tried to shoot me. I never shot anybody that didn't deserve it. Anyway, it's simple as that. They try to kill me, I try to defend myself. Simple as that. But I'm not a murderer. I don't plan killing anybody. I never did. I always try to do things peacefully. But in drug business, things just come in front of you, and you have to survive. Simple as that. So anyway, I come across this guy named Hochi Blanco. He owns a tabacalera, and huge, huge, huge tabacalera, internationally credited.
Do they take the Can you explain just a little bit? I'm sorry. So the tabacalera produces the cigars and then distributes them with different like white label names or across their own label and then across to different
When they when
countries.
they
Is that how?
when I met them at the beginning, when I met them, they were producing cigars for companies for different brands. Like there's a cigar called the Asian Room. Back in 2014, they win second prize best cigar in the world. And other cigars. They made so many cigars. They make a cigars this big, and it's $100 a piece. $100 a cigar. They make very expensive stuff. But anyway, my father-in-law, we went there, we approached them, and they good friends to him. But then, what a coincidence! Um, the guy's brother, used to clubbing with me in Dominican back in the 80s. When he saw me, back in the 80s, I had hair, I had long blonde hair and stuff. Now I'm bald, I shave my head, and he sees me. He keeps looking at me. He says, "So what's your name?" I say, "Adam." He says, okay, you used to drive a two-door sedan Mercedes back in 88. I say, yeah. He said, yeah, you used to come to my club in Santiago. It's called the Mansion. Huge club, huge club. He said, you used to come to this club. And you know, we used to admire you. We knew you were a big guy in the game. Uh, but these people, they filthy rich, but they not in the drug business, you know. They filthy rich because they into politics in this country. They into business like that, you know. They come from a big last name here in Dominican, but they admire me. They crazy about me. And he says, now I know who you are, Adam. He says, so we're gonna do business. He said, we're gonna do business. But the first
Well, I mean, and again, not to pass any judgment. I'm just saying some obvious stuff. I think it's also interesting how some people can be removed from anything criminal activity and seem to judge it, right? And be afar. But you're saying, like, these are people who are in a different world,
different word, yeah.
who made your money in a way that isn't how they do it, and still said, and we're gonna, and you know, that you're, it's just interesting because sometimes it doesn't work like that.
Well, the difference is that first they question me. They ask me, "Are you in the game?" No, of course not. It's been more than 20 years I'm not in the game. Okay, you're not in the game. What are you doing for a living now? Well, this is what I do with my family now. Okay. And then one thing that I admire about them, the first thing they did was they grabbed a whole group of people from that company, like the designer, like you have your editors and stuff. They grab the editor, they grab the designer, they have the manager, and they told that the big boss told them, I want you to go home tonight and watch this documentary that called the 7-5. And then I want you to come tomorrow and I'm gonna give you a homework. To me, that was big. Like it wasn't important to me like that. Like I saw the documentary, I liked it, yeah, oh nice, okay, but it didn't really impress me. But it did impress them. So they went home. They gave me an appointment for the next day. They say you have a meeting tomorrow 9 o'clock. Be on time. And I say okay. And then
Wear your nice jacket.
yeah,
Wear
well
your
no,
suit.
I was wearing jean jacket, a Levi jean jacket. I love you know, Levi jean jacket. So I was and I went there and they all were impressed. They were all looking at me like I'm a hero, like, oh my God, Adam, how did you do it? Blah 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 blah. And I was like, oh, okay. So then the big boss says, okay, we're gonna make your cigar, but it's gonna cost you. And I said, I don't have any money. I, you know, I'm not like that. I could probably sell one of my properties. I got properties, but I don't want to do that either. You know, and these properties, I rely on these properties. And then he says, okay. And then they disappear like for a week. And then they got back to me and they say, you have another appointment tomorrow, 9 o'clock. Come over. We need to talk. And they made a decision to make this cigar. And I had to put a penny down. And to me, that was amazing. And they did
So
build
they
them.
did wanna know that you were out of the game. So,
Yes.
like, where are you today?
Yeah.
And you're like, "It's been 20 years. I'm not doing that life anymore." But yes, I did. And then they're like, "Okay, everyone know what he stood for and was. Wow, okay." And then they're like, "Okay, let's do this joint venture." And you're like, "Okay, joint venture, but I'm not putting down any money." And then they said, "Okay, hold on a minute." And then they said, "Okay, come do this joint venture and we'll front you."
Yeah, and you got to remember this that you know that just like in New York, just like in the States, they have laundry money laws. They had laundry money laws here. They're very tough on it. Very tough on the laundry money laws. So you know they don't take any risk. You know, and it's crazy how you know they posted this article back in 2016. I would think it was. I'm not sure. Like a year or so after I released my cigar, and they were talking about how I'm washing money. This guy named Joe Ho is probably on dope or something by saying something like that. He says I was washing money and saying all this crap, and you know, and look, these people don't need that. These people make millions of dollars a month selling cigars, making cigars. These
So what you're
people,
trying to say is that they made up that you were using the cigar business as a money laundering
yeah,
business since you're officially out
yeah,
of the drug business. You're like, "Listen, I'm with legitimate cigar
yeah.
people who
And
don't
not
need,
only
in
that,
fact, don't
not, not,
want
not to
to be
only that,
involved with
that you
crime
can't.
Yeah.
I can't touch the cigar. It's called, look, the company that makes my cigar is called Zona Franca. Zona Franca means freelander. It belongs to the states. These are companies like Unicorn. They come like Levi's or Coca-Cola or Chevrolet or Toyota. They come to these countries. They make their plants. They make their parts. They make their products, and those products they go straight back to the states. They don't stay within the country. I don't touch my cigars. I can't even get close to them. I get samples. I can't get into the company and say, this is what goes, this is what doesn't go. The company, the manager, the administration, they made the decision. They make the cigars, they make the parking. Of course, they ask me, did you like it? Did you like the design? Did you like how we do it? Yes. No, whatever.
So it's your brand and you endorse the particular flavor, how it's
Yeah,
if
that's what
it's
I do.
smells nice,
Because
all
I'm a
that,
cigar
so that
lover
you
and,
endorse
and I
it
smoke
because you
cigars.
love cigars.
Yeah.
You're a connoisseur, so they want you to genuinely like
Exactly,
it. That's
exactly. Yeah,
basically your
I
job,
choose the
to say,
mixture. I
"I
just
like
choose the
this
mixture,
cigar enough. I like this enough that I approve it, and you can use my name to sell it," basically.
and that's what they do. And so they make the cigar and they send the cigar straight to. As a matter of fact, we registered the name in Washington, and we send it to Miami. It's called Wagyu Import. See, Wagyu Imports, and they just go straight to Miami. And from Miami, whoever wants cigars, they make the order. Simple as that. But after this guy made the article, uh, that was a downfall for me. I mean, one of the biggest company in Pennsylvania called me up and say, "We want to sell your cigar." And all of a sudden, this guy come out with this article in the papers, and then everyone was scared because they were talking about doing boycott on the
Now they
company.
got instead of just having, like, Al Capone vodka,
Exactly.
right? Sorry, right? Now
Exactly.
it's like, "Oh, I buy an Adam Diaz 7.5 cigar, I'm supporting criminal enterprise." It's one thing to be a fan of the gangster in his old life. It's another thing to say I'm participating, and that's what buying into it would be, right? So I'm just spelling it out, but I know what you're saying, but just to say, therefore, they're like, "We don't wanna get involved in that. We don't
Exactly.
wanna have illegal have a problem. We don't wanna get our business in trouble to
Yeah.
be affiliated."
Exactly.
But let me ask you this guy writes an article that's not substantiated. Did anyone take any reputation, management action against them, or did it just
Yes. Yes.
hope that
What we
people
did was what Mike did it. I did it. Mike went up to him, had a long conversation with him, spoke to a few guys. So he did lie about it. He says in the article that the police, but no, uh, troopers association, whatever, patrols troop association, whatever. We're gonna do boycott this and that and the other. Well, he messed up because the trooper association came back to him and bite him right in the ass. They call him up and they say, "Why did you even mention us? Why did you mention us? We don't agree with what you're saying. Everyone needs a second opportunity in life, and we don't agree with you. We have nothing to do with your comments in the newspaper, in your article. Why would you mention us? You are just a narcotic chief in the drug in the drug criminal prosecution. We had nothing to do with that. So why would you even mention us?" So they didn't like what he wrote. And then after that, Tabacalera Palma also sent them a letter, not to him, but to the newspaper, and said, "No, if you come again and write another article like that, you have to ask for forgiveness or whatever because if you don't, we're gonna sue you because our product
So
pay
he
tax."
did they have him do a retraction? Meaning, was he forced to take it back, or
No, they
it
didn't.
was just
They didn't
saying
took it back. What they did, they put me on pause. The Tabacalera Palma told me, "Look, let's give it a rest. Not because they're not going to do it anymore. Because we already called them. We told them we're going to sue them, and they do it again because we pay taxes. We invested a lot of money on this, and now it's not fair to you, and it's not fair to us. We were expecting to make a lot of money off your cigars, and now we can't. So therefore, let's give them some time, and then we take it from there." And I say, "Fine, no problem." And we waited a couple of years, and then after that, we renewed the operation, and I started sending cigars again. But then the Quebec area came in. That was really a downfall for my cigar. That really messed everything up. And then after that, I said, all right, I'll stop until I have enough money to really reassemble and resend my product in a huge way to the States. But look, it's been a couple of years already, 3 years, and still people call me up from all over the world. They want my cigar. I have a guy in London who calls me up. Usually people pay $120 to $200 for a box of cigars in New York City and in Miami, right? Depending whether you're buying 10 boxes or 20 or 50 or one box, right? This guy's willing to pay $500 for each box so I could get these boxes to London. That's how much they love my cigar there. And I said, I don't have any right now, but as soon as I reinvented my company again, I will send you plenty of cigars. So right now we're working on that, and I'm working on making a cigar only for ladies.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yeah,
We talked about
I'm not gonna,
that.
I'm not gonna tell you
So
the
let's
name.
talk about gender cigars. So let's talk about what makes a lady cigar. Is it pink? No, I'm just kidding. What makes a lady cigar?
Well,
Yeah, because they
in
did
this
that.
country, women love cigars. Women smoke a lot of cigars. In Miami, women smoke cigars like crazy. You got to remember, cigars, tobacco, habano is way more healthy. It's not that it's healthy, but it's less, uh, like
Damaging.
it's exactly less damaging than cigarettes. Cigarettes got chemicals. This don't have no chemicals, not chemicals at all. This cigar, all it has is a high volume of nicotine, but natural nicotine from the plant, not chemicals, no gases, no ammonia, no nothing. There's no chemicals at all. It's just pure nicotine. Cigars, Havano has the maximum expression of nicotine in a product.
So nicotine in cigars and tobacco have been used in a lot of Latin, South American, and also Native American cultures, right? Like ritualized use, right? For meditation, ceremony. I say that to say, there is we talked about this lightly before discussing this interview, just at a high level around, the cigarette is like the feeling is this compulsion, and the cigar vibe is,
Well,
and the whole way.
when you smoke a cigarette like a Marlboro or Monte Carlo or Newport, whatever, they inhale the smoke inside their lungs, and then it comes out of their lungs. When you smoke a Habano, you pull in the smoke, you keep it in your mouth. You don't put it into your lungs. You never let the smoke into your lungs. You you put it in your mouth, you move it around, you taste it, and you breathe it out. You don't never bring you never smoke an Havana cigar and bring the smoke into your lungs. That's the difference between smoking a cigar and smoking a cigarette.
Have you in forgive me, in the DR, I don't know if this, like, culturally, but in the States, there's a lot of, renewal into cigar lounges and, well, and cannabis too, right? Where there's essentially a meeting place, a social place. So,
Yeah, true.
sometimes you see in movies, the poker room with the guys and the cigars, but literally for that. So do you have that there?
Yeah, plenty of them. I usually go to this place called uh, 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 Maduros and Meat. Maduros and Meat. You go there and you have the best steak, fresh steak, not frozen meat from the supermarket. No, they kill the cow. They got fresh meat there. They have fresh pork meat, all the best meat, the best fishes, but most of it is steak, good quality steak with good wine, all the best brands, and they have uh, they have to tell all kinds of cigars, the best brands of cigars. So we usually go there because when you smoke a good cigar, if you eat good, you'll be all right. Like most people that don't have any experience smoking, they go and grab a cigar and they just want to We call it gangsters wannabe. They want to pretend they gangsters, but they're not. They're not gangsters. They don't know. They don't even know about cigars. So they go there and they grab a cigar and they start smoking. And all of a sudden they getting dizzy. They start throwing up and stuff like that. No, you have to know
Mm,
how to smoke a cigar. Most people don't know that when you're smoking a cigar, you should have a bottle of water all time near you. You have to take a good sip of water once in a while. Smoke your cigars. Don't drink sugar. Sugar red wine, sweet wine. Don't do that. Uh, good whiskey will be good. Um, Good food. Eat good food. Good steak, and you'll be fine. And you'll have a good taste of cigars if you know how to smoke it, of course. And
right.
it all depends also what kind of cigar you're smoking.
So I have a question for you, and it's a little loaded, but forgive me since you're kindly answering every random thing I ask you. You talked about what it's like to spend all that time incarcerated and how when you're stripped of everything from, Lamborghini, Maserati, Porsche, whatever, women, jewels, and fashion to like, can I go to the bathroom now? When do I wake up? When do I go down? So those are like pretty extreme ends, or jumping over the fence and trying to, not get gored by a bull when you're a little kid and all that. So we're mixing stuff around, but I'm just like putting this together to say I know, and I say this respectfully when I'm not calling you old, but I am gonna say, I know that as we age in life, we do sometimes calm down a little bit in terms of that adrenaline rush and the thrill seeking and that kind of stuff, a little bit. Now you do things like that kind of stuff, right? But I say this to say, it is fascinating because you were such a hustler, because you were such I see this from here and I can put it here and I can make this here and I can do that. And now you're being not passive, but you're saying, "Okay, this is the rules of big business. I'm not gonna these cigar people are on the level. This is the structure. This is not, a game. So these are the rules of it. If this is happening, I have to wait for that or give that some time." How I guess I'm saying this because I've talked to a lot of people who've been formerly incarcerated of all different kinds of life.
Yeah,
And the same thing that when you were younger, where your father, your uncle, some of the family friends said, like, "Hey, please don't do that life because, whatever." And you were like, "Yeah, but the life is exciting and this is kind of boring and it doesn't provide." Is it more age, life experience? Is it because you're a father more now and more involved in these young, and there's a lot of children involved, and you're trying to set an example, but what is it? And I know it's not one thing, but can you talk about how you're making different choices now? Because I could imagine, and you don't have to say what they are, but you can if you want. I could imagine that you get presented with opportunities, and I say that because most of the people I talk to who have been incarcerated say everyone assumes that I still want to do crime. So, I'd imagine you get presented with not necessarily upstanding cigar company opportunities, but other kinds of opportunities, and how do you choose to focus on, real estate where a storm could knock out your rental property budget or the cigar upstanding business where you're a level removed, so if you get a press nightmare, it affects your bottom line. How do you stay, sorry to say it, clean? How do you stay out of that world when you were so good at it?
well, look, I'm 61 years old, and I think the same way I used to think back then. I don't believe. Look, Donald Trump, the president, he
Mhm.
chooses to blow up ships that trying to bring drugs into the country, right? He blows them up. He kills the drug dealers.
Yeah, I'm not really following all that, but
Well,
okay.
I do. But anyway, the reason I'm telling you this is because when I was younger and I was into the drug business and they locked me up, my big question was always, why would they let all that drug come into the country and now they don't want me selling those drugs? Maybe I was thinking crazy, maybe not. I don't know. Maybe I was right or wrong. Who knows? All I know was that in my head, as a young man, I was always thinking, why are you punishing me for something that you're letting me do? Why are you letting all these thousands and thousands and thousands of kilos coming into the country? And then when I choose to make money off of it, I'm, you look at me, like the bad guy. I'm not, I'm not putting a gun through nobody's head and say, you got to buy me the drugs, you got to use the drugs. No, right? So that's the way I saw it back then. Now, after all these decades of government in the states and all these presidents that came through, all they thought about was incarcerating people, putting people behind bars, and they putting young guys behind bars that they did deserve a chance. They did deserve the chance. Okay? They didn't have to give a 19-year-old 30 years in a conspiracy that they never found the kid with a Grammys on him. They don't even have tape recordings on him. They did, because they did it to me. They look, they let me mention this real quick.
Okay.
I'm being famous for the 7-5 documentary, which is based on myself, you know, being a big boss, controlling cops in New York City, right? Well, guess what? I was never convicted of drugs in the States back then. I plead out to laundering money. Laundering money, that's all it was. And I've been famous for that case. Yes, I did plead out for drugs later, late in the 90s, when I came out of jail and I got rearrested again, dealing with drugs again. Yeah. And then now we're talking about me bringing 3,000 kilos from Venezuela and Ecuador in the 80s. You know what I mean? With a huge corporation. That's what I was doing. Back in the 80s, late 80s, I was doing it locally in Brooklyn. And I was really good at it. I had just different spots. I got the cops. I controlled the cops in Brooklyn, in East New York. And also in Manhattan, I had a couple of cops. You know, I even have FBI friends of mine, not directly involved, but they like me, and once in a while they tip me off some things. You know what I'm saying? Because they were friends of mine from when I was younger, way younger. Okay.
Yeah, it's like in the movies that we've seen where we see all the kids come up and one of the brothers is in the Justice Department and the other one's a criminal, and so he's like, "Hey, watch out." Like, it's sort of like your life is a
Hey,
movie.
my friend Juan from Brooklyn. When we were young, when we were kids, he went to the army. He went to the army. He went and fought in, I think it was, where was, I don't even know. But he went to war. I think he went to, uh,
Desert Storm?
no. It was a war by before Desert Storm and all that. And he went and fought the war. He came back and he became a DA. He became a DA agent. He became an FBI. And I came
So
across
that's
him. I came up
yeah,
in the court in the 501st Street Federal Building. I came right across him, and he looked at me. He says, "Adam," I couldn't believe it. And I said, Juan. I call him Juan. I say, Juan, what are you doing? And then I saw his fucking badge, and I say, "Oh, like, get the fuck out of here! You became an FBI." He goes, "Yeah." So he goes to me.
yeah.
So he goes to me. What did you do this time? I say, "Oh man, it's a long story." So
Well, I mean, I tell you this too because I'm about to interview next week a former federal US Marshal Homeland Security who had a RICO case with the GOP, was Geovese family, it doesn't matter, right? Italian mafia. And the guy that he indicted, fast forward, I think it's been a decade, maybe more, they now have a wine business. So, you know, and he is not okay with, he doesn't break the law. Like he stays in his lane. However, I think that's important because again, it's not my place to say if you're a good man or a bad man. I mean, it really isn't. It's not your place to say if I'm a good woman or not a bad woman. That's between us and our whatever we believe and our own families and those kinds of things. And if there's a law, sometimes there's laws about, for example, in this country, marijuana, cannabis, right?
yeah,
Where things that were illegal weren't illegal. You stand in this state and you smoke a joint and it's allowed. You stand over the line in the other state, it's not allowed. So I'm not making fun of the law. I'm just saying it's a lot of gray area on who's allowed to do this and who's allowed to do that. If you're a certain ethnicity, if you're a certain wealth level, you can pay off something. If you can't, so it doesn't always mean that the same rules apply to everyone. So I'm just saying that, like, for this interview, that we're trying to be above that, but we also wanna recognize that it's not that clean, like, this is the box of the good people, and this is the box of the bad people, and this is what it means if you do these things that you got caught for or didn't get caught for. So it's just fascinating, and I think that's a big part of it. You grew up with family and friends who took different paths, and you might have started on different experiences,
Yep.
but then, you've chosen to try to basically take a little bit of a harder route, and I'm not saying, "Oh, poor Adam," but I am saying that it is harder sometimes to make your way in the legal avenues that are before you, because everything often takes resources to get off the ground. So and then if your reputation, whether it's earned or not, or you did have a reputation of you did do money laundering, but in this particular case, there is no money laundering with the cigars. However, they used the reputation to make a false narrative that actually affected a legitimate business. And I think that's important to note because that's where things get really mixed up. And people just want and sometimes they're doing that just because they think you're cool and they want the attention of breaking a story, but they're making it up. And I think that's why people don't trust government and scientists and journalists in the way that we used to, because nowadays it's a wild west of anything goes. And unless you have like a really good legal team, and even if you have a really good legal team, once the story or idea is out there, the effect can still take a while to impact, which is what you were telling me. But at the same time, you're undeterred and you're like, and I'm going to have a cigarette for women. So we started to talk about that a little bit. I was wondering just really quick before we have to close up for a little while, and then we're gonna keep talking, obviously. What makes a cigar for women different than a cigar for men?
Okay. Well, we most cigars, most puros, habanos we make in the industry is made for a man, for a gangster.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, look back. The Italian mafia, the Irish, even the Jewish mafia. They all is all about men, 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 men. But well, how about Griselda? How about her?
Oh, wow.
I met the real Griselda, and I know they have guts, real guts. They tough, and they good business.
What was the famous line? "I'm only afraid of one man, and it's a woman." What did he say? Isn't that what they say about Griselda? Her son, Michael, by the way, just wrote a book, and also I'm doing an interview with him,
Oh, very
ironically.
good, very good.
Yeah, he's someone we know, who wants to talk about that too, because of this whole thing, like, where do we all fit? So, yes,
And I
yes, but
know.
I'm like Griselda. What are other women
Well,
like? Because she's an unusual
there's a lot of big businesswomen, huge businesswomen in the legal business. Even in the cigar business, I know women that controls companies that make good cigars, including I know this Chinese girl that came to Hochi Blanco's uh, field where he makes all the cigars. She made this huge company. She makes cigars and send it to Slim Cigars. She makes and sends it to China. And she's huge. She's just
Mhm.
big, 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 big. Never came across her mind. I mentioned it to her. I say, why don't you make us a nice with a lot of style cigar for women? Because this is brown, and then you got light brown, you got almost white. The taste also you got taste cigars like vanilla and stuff, but not Habanos, never Habanos. So I'm trying to make an Habano that is pink or goldish. The cape around it. We're
Mhm.
still working on it because we don't want it. We don't want to affect the taste and the quality.
Right.
And it's a lot of
I
work
knew you were gonna
to be done. But I think we're making it. We're gonna make it really good. And that's gonna be for women. It's gonna be a mild taste, not too strong. Mild, very mild. So women can really take advantage of this product instead of getting drunk and drink her head up just because when you smoke a cigar, let's say you're not a person that like alcohol, right? You just like a little bit of cup of wine sometimes. This is the best product for you because you can smoke a cigar and relax and just relax. and have fun in the club, have fun in the meeting, have fun in a in a even in a meeting with guys, you know, and have a nice like I usually go to the mountains and get in a horse with my uncles. They have a lot of horses, and get in the horses with my cigar, and we just ride and ride and ride and ride, and then we go and start a fogata, and we cook, and we drink some, and then we smoke a cigar. Women can do the same because most men at my age, or most married men, always accompanied by a woman, and most women don't even the smoke. They don't like the smell. Okay,
I mean, I don't smoke.
exactly. They don't like the smell. So, and it's hard, but when they once they taste it and they smoke it, and you teach them how to do it, they go
They like
crazy,
the
and then they
experience.
hooked on it. They hooked on it like if it's
Like
drugs. And
well, don't say that's not a good endorsement, but yeah, we'll edit that part out. I don't think you should say that. I'm like, I think we
well,
should cut
man,
that out. Well,
there's all
but
kinds of drugs. When
I'm joking with you. I'm
sometimes
joking with you.
sometimes
But
people are hooked on painkillers that will kill you your and your inner.
everything
So
and your liver, and
exactly,
right.
your liver
So
goes
so
like a garbage. So
so let me ask you this. So for today, or in this short term, if we don't have a huge footprint here because we're trying to do human stories. We're not necessarily trying to be, celebrity chasers. However, people are listening and watching and consuming our media, and we're sharing this around. How would people get a hold of your cigars today or
today
get in an order?
we don't have any inventory right now. I stopped my cigar when
Well,
once the
are you collecting names for interest? You know what I mean? Like, are you saying, okay, I'll put you on a list, and when we're ready, we're going to ship these out? Like,
yeah,
are you
well,
doing something like that?
we have a page. It's called cigar75.com. And
Okay,
we always keep people informed when we about to release, which is going to be very soon. When we're going to
that's
release,
what I thought.
we're
Mhm.
going to release the product. We're going to have it available in three different sizes, and it's going to be good. It's going to come back more powerful, stronger than ever.
Okay. We're gonna close the interview with, is there anything you wish somebody asked you about what makes Adam tick that you haven't gotten to share, or that you feel like people got wrong?
I think I'm always I'm a man. I don't know how to call it. I think I'm very unfortunate in love, and
You're a fool for love.
yeah, because of my incarceration, I lost a good woman, a really good woman, my first wife. And after that, I never got my hands on definitely, I never got my hands again on a woman that really loved me. And it's because the lack of time, I got arrested a couple of times, and all this time I did behind bars. And then after a certain age, you don't really, that just don't show up just that easy. It's very hard. But we're always trying, and I have three young kids, three young daughters, and I had it with this woman, and she's wonderful, but it didn't work. It just didn't work. And but that's the part of my life that people don't see sometimes. This is what I wanted from day one since I was a kid. I wanted to have a good family. I chose the wrong, maybe not. Maybe I chose the wrong path in my life, and I didn't get to do what I wanted to do, which is have a family, have grandkids, have and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, I hear you. All right. Well, we'll end the interview with this, and we'll be talking again soon. And then I want to tell you something unrelated, but it's not for the interview. So thank you so much for joining me today.